Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Foliage. So some time back I had a question related with the pole because most of our epiphytic plants like the philodendrons or the pothos, even monsteras as well, rhaphidophorus, we use a pole, and a lot of times the pole tends to dry much faster as compared to the soil. So the person wanted to know how can they moisten the pole or water the pole without that water entering into the pot, because the pot is already wet. So I would say the best option is to use a misting bottle. You get these bottles at a very cheap rate. You can purchase these bottles. They not only come handy in misting the plants but also to mist the pole. So all you have to do is turn this knob into a full misting mode and then mist only the pole. With this, the water will not fall into the pot or and try to mist more around the node area. And this is what I have been doing. I tend to mist the pole like this, but for me it's not much of an issue because my soil also tends to dry very fast. Probably in 4 days it's almost dry, not completely dry but almost dry, because I live in a very dry environment. Now it's not much of an issue for me because I tend to water the pole as well as the soil because my environment is very dry and it tends to dry the soil faster. So I never have an issue of overwatering any of my foliage plants. In fact, if I do not water them or if I do not water the soil, they start showing signs of dehydration. So I have to be extremely careful that I keep watering my pot as well as the pole as well. So I usually tend to water both together. I take you might have seen in my earlier videos, I just take water and I start putting the water on the pole, and then that water starts to trickle down into the pot. So if you are a person who's having issues, then I would suggest is, if you have planted the plant in a very large pot, downsize the pot, because if you're using a pole and a pot, a 7-inch pot is more than enough for your philodendron, because as I said, your pole is also a growing media for the epiphytic plant. They eventually start to attach their roots onto the pole. So the pole is like an extended growing media apart from the pot that is there beneath. Now let's say that you are still very afraid to water the pole. You think that the water might still enter into the pot. So what you can do is, again, this depends how heavy your pot is, because I have this small plastic container. It's not much of an issue. For me, this is very light. So what you can do is, you can probably just tilt the pole, and then you can go ahead and water it in a little bit more stronger mist. So with this, only the pole is going to get wet, and that excess water will fall off down. As you can see, it is not going to fall into the pot. So you can try this method as well, but this is only possible if the pot is not very heavy, or if it is possible for you to tilt the pot a little bit and then focus more on that node areas where the roots are present. So you can go ahead and moisten the entire pole like this. Sorry, with one hand it's always difficult to do this stuff, but it's very easy. So you can see none of the water falls into the pot. So our entire pole is wet, especially near the node area. So in this, the water will not fall into the pot. So you can save your pot getting watered again and only have your pole wet. Now ideally, it depends. If you have a sphagnum moss pole, of course it retains moisture. It all depends upon the type of pole you have. Now I have a coir rope pole. This tends to dry much faster. Apart from that, you know that I'm from a very dry environment. So my coir ropes, they tend to, or even the moss poles, they tend to dry out really fast. So I have to water them every second day. But again, if you're growing them indoor and if you have a sphagnum moss pole, it will take a little bit more time for it to dry because it all depends upon your environment and climate. But yes, a lot of times the poles will dry much faster compared to the pot. So I think this is going to be a very good option for people who are worried that they might do excess watering for their plants. So it's better to have, just slant it a little bit and then you can water it. You can probably slant it a little bit more. This is just an example, so you can try this out. And talking about fertilizers, yes, you also have to add fertilizers on the pole as well. I don't have any fertilizers right now, so I'm just going to show it to you with this itself. So the same way how you watered it, you can use the fertilizers and very little just put them on it. But before that, you have to moisten the pole. Don't use the fertilizer directly on a dry pole. It will start to repel, because when the pole is dry, especially the coir pole or the moss pole, when it is dry, it will repel water. So first moisten the pole, and then with a very weak spray, just add the nutrients. Let's say that this is some fertilizer that I have added, and then I'm just going to add mostly near the node area. Not exactly on the node area, but closer to it. We do not want to burn the aerial roots, because eventually they will start to attach and pull out the nutrients. We do not want to put excess nutrients on the node area, because at times if the fertilizer is very strong, it can definitely burn the roots, the aerial roots. So we can just use it like this. And that's about it. So in this way you can moisten your pole, and it's very important to moisten the pole, because otherwise the roots will not attach itself onto the pole, because there has to be a slight amount of moisture in order for the roots to attach itself onto the pole, because the main purpose of the roots on the pole is to absorb moisture or nutrients. That's how it tends to work in their natural habitat as well, when they start to attach themselves onto the tree barks. So the same way we have to recreate that. Keep the pole slightly moist, and you can spray some fertilizers probably once every 15 days and in the pot once every month, and that is going to work out really well. So they can have two growing media, one the pot below, and the second one, it's going to be their extended growing media, which is the pole. So that's about it, guys. I hope that you liked this video. If you did, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep planting.